videos ago, maybe 2 or 3 videos ago, I bumped into a workmate in the halls at work, and he said to me, he'd watched the video, and he asked me, he said, how do I know how to do all of this stuff? So basically I'll give you a bit of a background on what I've done to kind of pick up all these little bits and pieces of information and how to do things and everything like that. Basically, let's start when I was a kid. We had push bikes and learned to pull apart a push bike, repaint it, put it back together and get it working again. We then moved on to motorbikes in my early to mid-teens. In my late teens, I would say mid-teens, I got a job for as part of work experience at school at a mechanics workshop. I was working with two older blokes, one in, I would say probably in his late 60s, early 70s. What this bloke didn't know wasn't worth knowing. The other bloke, a little bit younger, but he had a lot of experience in regards to go-karts and welding and things like that. This mechanics workshop, they pretty much worked on anything. Cars, trucks, lawnmowers, whippersnippers, basically anything that had a motor in it or anything that needed fixed, welded, made, whatever. I was fortunate enough to work with them for school experience, for work experience with school. Worked with them for 2 weeks. At the end of those 2 weeks I was coming into school holidays, and they asked if I was interested in staying on over the school holidays. And back then, this is probably late 80s, they weren't really expected to pay their work experience kids or anything like that, but fortunately they decided that I was to get paid, and I was quite happy with that. And after the work experience, they offered me to come back on school holidays and help them out and fix lawnmowers, do all the small jobs that they sort of didn't really have time to do because they had a lot of other stuff going on, a lot bigger jobs going on. And of course I said yes. Both of them taught me a hell of a lot in regards to engines, anything mechanical, welding, things like that. I worked there for 2.5 years over my school holidays, and I very much enjoyed it. The two blokes that I worked with, they were really good in imparting their knowledge onto other people. They wanted to teach other people, they wanted other people to know how to do things. After that, I finished high school. I finished at the end of year 11. I went into an apprenticeship on the railways as a signal maintenance technician. There I learned a lot of electrical stuff, electronics, electromechanical, electro-pneumatic, electro-hydraulic and other mechanical stuff. At the end of my apprenticeship, this is when Jeff Kennett sold everything off. I was basically without a job, so I went on to an electrical training company where I completed my electrical licence. I then went on to work with subcontractors. I gained my Austel telecommunications licence. I had that for a couple of years, and then one year I forgot to renew it, and rather than resitting the test, because that test really it does your head in. Back then it did anyway. So I just continued working with some electrical contractors. Then I moved on to working with computers, and learnt sort of pretty much everything sort of intermediate to advanced user needs to know about computers, putting them together, pulling them apart, fixing things, creating small networks which I've actually created around here, around the house. I've run a Cat5 cable to the garage here, which is connected up to a storage server inside the house, and so basically I can access all my files and everything like that from pretty much anywhere in the anywhere around the house. Then when I was an apprentice, all my mates were all getting into cars, so the push bikes and motorbikes got pushed aside for bigger things, cars. During my apprenticeship I worked on a couple of cars. I built one engine, I built a 253 V8 and a Supra 5-speed gearbox, and I put that into a HK Premier, and I'll tell you what, that went pretty well. Ended up selling that to a mate. I kind of regret selling that now because it was my first car, and when I got my licence, and I had a lot of fun in that car. My second car was a Mark 1 two-door Ford Escort. I completely stripped it down, gearbox, engine, diff, the whole body, stripped it down, repainted it, rebuilt the engine, rebuilt the rear diff. Gearbox was fine, didn't have to do anything to that, all new brakes, cleaned up the electrical system, made sure everything was working on it. That was a really good car too, but at the time the company I was working with supplied a van, so the lady I was with at the time decided that I didn't need my car, so that I should sell it. Again, a regretful sale. I didn't really want to sell it, but happy wife, happy life, so they say. Since then, during my apprenticeship, got better instruction on how to weld, how to use milling machines, how to use lathes, different kinds of power tools, different kinds of hand tools. So this was a railway apprenticeship, so our training was actually quite good compared to a standard run-of-the-mill apprenticeship. Our training was quite good. A lot of the stuff on milling and machining with the lathe I've kind of forgotten, but I'm picking up bits and pieces here and there, either on the internet or through books. Years ago, when I was started getting into cars and everything like that, we never had the internet. All we had was word of mouth and books. But now with the internet, you can pretty much just jump straight onto Google or onto YouTube. Whatever you want to do, you can find it, and there will be something there that'll actually show you how to do it, which these days it's an invaluable tool. I use it all the time to learn all new different things that I didn't know beforehand, or if someone talks at work about something, I'll go home and have a look, and I'll see I'll see myself how to do it. And that's pretty much how I've learnt how to do pretty much everything that I do over the years. It's either word of mouth, through books, and nowadays the internet. Compared to a lot of other people on YouTube and on the internet that I watch, you'll see some of the channels that I actually watch on YouTube. These guys are absolutely phenomenal on what they do, and they specialise in a certain thing, whether it be machining or car engines or cars in general, or pretty much anything. They are really good. Me, compared to them, I don't know anything, because these guys are that knowledgeable, and I think I'm probably that step below novice as compared to some of these guys out on the internet. But the thing is, I enjoy giving it a go, and to me it's a challenge. I'm going to learn something new, and I'm going to be able to do something or make something that I've never done before. How did I get into motor trimming? Motor trimming is another word for automotive interiors or automotive upholstery. While I was in between jobs, I was just looking around and I walked into a trimming shop and I asked them if they had any jobs going. And the owner of the business asked me if I knew how to use the sewing machine, and explained to him that when I was in high school, my elective subjects, I had choice of textiles, woodwork or metalwork. Metalwork and woodwork were kind of a bit hard to get into. I did actually get into them, but I'd done a couple of stints in what's called textiles, and that was using a sewing machine, making pillows or clothes or something like that. So I had a bit of experience from that from high school. The car I had at the time, the rear seat, the top of it, top 8 inches or so, had been sun damaged, so the material was pretty ratty. So I just went down to my local trash and treasure market. I knew a bloke that's there. He sells offcuts of automotive cloth. I picked up a couple of metres, I think, of cloth from him. Went home, took the seat apart, cut off the old ratty bits of the back seat, sewed on the new parts, and it looked pretty good. I didn't have an industrial sewing machine at the time. I just used Mum's sewing machine. She wasn't very happy about that, but got the job done. I showed the bloke what I'd done, and as far as he was concerned, for someone that's never done automotive upholstery, I'd done not a bad job. So he gave me a job, and I worked there for 12 months until the owner decided he was either going to sell up or close down, and he decided he'd had enough of having his own business and all that sort of thing. He wanted to move into something new, so he just ended up closing the business down. But I managed to learn how to pretty much retrim a whole car, door trims, seats, things like that. I didn't learn how to do a ute tonneau cover or a convertible roof, but for me, I wasn't really interested in doing that. I just wanted to do seats and door trims and dashes and things like that. So I was quite happy to leave the convertible roofs up to real professionals, and the tonneau covers, you pick them up off eBay for dirt cheap. It wasn't even worth me looking into doing anything like that. So yeah, that's how I learnt how to retrim a car. One of my projects coming up, I'm going to make an electric guitar. I'm not really good at woodworking, so I'm a little bit worried about that, but that's not going to stop me. I've seen how it's done on YouTube, of course, and it's something that I've always been interested in doing, and working with wood is a real challenge, because with wood you really can't make any mistakes. You have to do it properly the first time. You can't add wood if you cut too much off. With metal, if you cut too much off, just weld a bit back on, grind it off, she'll be right. With wood, no, you can't do that. You stuff something up and it's stuffed up for wood. It becomes toothpicks or firewood. I will be starting that in a while. At the moment, I've still got a lot of things to do around the house. I've got to bird-proof the other side of the house. I've got to run some more lights on the other side of the house. I've got to finish the laundry. A couple of weeks ago I ripped out the old laundry sink and found the plaster along the laundry walls is pretty ratty, pretty knackered, so I had to rip that out and replaster the walls, ripped up the tiles in the laundry, so I've got to finish off sealing, undercoating the walls in the laundry. I've put the tiles up, new laundry sinks in, but I've got to finish off that first. Still waiting on 4 sets of doors for the kitchen before I can actually get in to start painting that. That's been about 6 weeks now since I've ordered them due to COVID. It is still still waiting on them. But once I get them, finish off the kitchen, build a little cabinet over the range hood, or not cabinet, shelf over the range hood just to fill in that gap. Probably do a little video on that. For now, the F100 is pretty much just going to sit for 2 or 3 months while I'm catching up on a lot of other stuff. What else have I got to do? I've got that much stuff to do. It's, the list would be shorter if I actually told you what I don't have to do. In between having a 15-month-old child, working full time, things are pretty flat out. But anyway, I'll keep plodding along, and thanks for watching. Cheers.